Students who are doing home care exams. Home care exam, I mean, these people, after they are trained, they go out like Middle East. They're being employed in homes and they return money back home. And we have seen that skilled labor of our country that is going out of the country contributes more than any other exports that we are doing out, we are taking out, which means our return as human resource who work outside, our return is even superseding what we export outside. So I urge Kenyans, irrespective of wherever they are in this country, to take students, I mean their children or their boys and girls, to come and get a skill from NITA. That is why we are opening up institutions all over the country, so that our youth can be able to get skill training that will assist them in the job market.
Also, Deborah Chepogisio, a KCPE candidate at St. Paul Caron Boarding and Primary School in Kitalarengan Village, Nakui, and some location in Kacheliba, West Pokot County, is now fighting for her life after developing a heart illness that has seen her live in worry for the last 2 years. Belinda Williams tells us Deborah's plight in her quest to seek medication.
13-year-old Deborah Chepogisio, under her grandmother's care, was forced to stay away from school since the beginning of this year, in spite of her being a KCP candidate. Her illness is said to have started as chest problems, and after receiving treatment at a health center, the problem persisted.
Sasa nilikuwa naendea shule day. Nikifika shule nilikuwa nachoka sana. Sasa hatuko najua ni nini. Baba yangu alinipeleka hospitali na wakapima. Walikuwa nadhani kifua, wakanidungia dawa ya pneumonia. Mpaka 2022 ndo wakapima sasa wakajua kumbe ni.
Expressing hopelessness, Deborah is now calling on West Pokot Governor Simon Kachapin and other well-wishers to help her raise her 2 million medical bill and lead a normal life just like her peers.
Tushinda sasa tunafanyaje? Ndio tunaomba sana msaada, mtusaidie. Hata kwa shule sikusoma term 1 term 2 na niko class 8. Sijui nitafanya nini, mnisaidie. Kanda barabara hii shamba kidogo ya Kongo. Sisi hatuna shamba, gogo ndo ananishughulikia kila kitu.
Deborah's grandmother, who's been left taking care of her grandchildren after Deborah's father sank into drunkenness, is pleading for help to restore smile on their face.
Mimi nachanga tu yeye akasema mimi nashukuru kwa sababu kama miko mtu unachengea mimi hata watu hii kijiji hii yote najua mimi iko peke yangu. Na mimi sina yochote basi hii mtoto. Na kama baba yake hakuna hapa, hakuna baba yake hata kiona yeye, hakuna kitu unatoa. Baba yake tu ni baba yake. Hata saa hii kimwambia kipigia simu bali yuko sijui Uganda, Garate wapi.
St. Paul Caron Boarding and Primary School head teacher Dina Lonyangapoy says the girl needs urgent need as Deborah has a promising future, and it's devastating to see her almost giving up.
I wish to seek help, especially to any donor, any well-wisher that can help the girl be in school, get well, because the child really cries when she's in school, and also the crying has affected the other learners. So I am appealing to anyone that can help Deborah. I know we normally say that when we are together we can solve problems.
Topoyowo Affinity Youth Organization Treasurer Joseph Sarich, an organization that advocates for the rights of young people in the area, has called on the area MP Titus Loti to move with speed and rescue the girl, noting that the only way to empower Pokot community is through education.
Amekuwa ameshughulika sana kwa huyu mtoto na wale watoto wake, kwa sababu unapata zingine kama mwaka jana kuna watoto walifanya form 4 wasichana wawili na walipita vizuri, lakini kwa sababu ile uwezo pia ya kwamba hawana pesa ya kupeleka hao university, ilibidi hao watoto wako sasa nyumbani, na huyu mwingine tena hako hapa kwa shida ya ugonjwa. So unapata ya kwamba kuna changamoto nyingi sana kwa hii familia.
Reporting for EBN, my name is Belinda William.
Well, we do hope that the student will get the help that she needs, and we do empathize with the family. The government has announced plans to do a facelift of Siaya County by launching affordable housing project and resuscitate the stalled projects under the Kenya Urban Support Programs in the county. Speaking during an assessment visit to the county, the Chief Superintending Architect, State Department for Housing and Urban Development, Architect Mose Mark Ongweno, he has noted that they seek to work on the drawings and designs of the projects with a view of or to tender and kickstart their implementations. Geoffrey Wanyoike reports.
There's a design for a ground plus 9 floors. Site has been set aside, 5 acres, that is supposed to do for the first phase. It's at least 200 units. And we've come up with a prototype design for 6 units, for per floor. So it means that doing 9 floors, 10 floors, that is grounded plus 9 floors. Those are 10 levels. We're going to end up with 60 units per block. So for the first phase, we'll have at least 4 blocks. That should give us 240 units of different typologies. We have 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. We have 1 bedroom and bedsitter. It's hybrids in those units. So that is the first assignment. The second one is on the municipal market. The site is at Siaya, within the municipality. We already had a design that was developed by us some time back. I also understand there are other designs that have been done by the county. And this is kind of an integrated project because we also have a bus park within the vicinity. So the assignment is to see how the two designs can be harmonized for the purposes of going for tender process.
We were thinking of an integrated project comprising of the market and the bus park and affordable housing. The bus park is partly done, and in the current budget we have allocated some money. For us, the bus park and the market are an integral unit. If they can be built and designed to in a way that they will be consistent in terms of use, each feeding to the other, will be most excited, and that's why we said it is a partnership with the county likely funding the bus park as an integral part of the whole development.
What I was also thinking is that however much we are going to design these markets, we should do markets which is like a model, so that we don't only work on one area and leave others. There are moments that a market has a lot of things that really needs to be done, like drainage, roads, a lot of inlets.
How about we take a look at stories making headlines in the newspapers? I've got the Daily Nation, the Standard, and the Star with me. So we'll kick it off with the Daily Nation, top of the page. Education for the rich. Some public universities are charging more than private universities. Confusion over the new funding model. The chairperson of the Public Universities Vice Chancellor's body, Professor Daniel Mugendi, says alarm over high fees is misguided, adding some students do not understand the admission letters. But the shock figures have parents and students on edge, uncertain about access to state scholarship under the new system. About 30 billion shillings has been allocated to the Higher Education's Loans Board for students' loans based on index. 16 billion shillings has been set aside for scholarships disbursed through the university's funds. And about 4,000 students have applied for assistance by Wednesday out of the 140,000 that are expected to join various campuses come next month. So that is a story that is on page 6-7 of the Daily Nation. This comes on the backdrop of the new funding model that was announced by the government that will see students either benefit from loans or from scholarships or from the, what we'd call personal payment or, private payment to the institutions. So students will start reporting from early next month and have until midnight, August 27th, to apply for government funding, which is broken down into scholarships, loans, and bursaries. That is the right term, which is broken down to scholarships, loans, and bursaries. Now, this is a new funding model that is in place that will that takes effect beginning this academic year, where we're expecting first-year students to join come September. And the new funding model has taken in place the school fees subsidy, or that has been put up in place over the years, where students who are joining through the direct entry, what we call JAB, were paying roughly amount, about 20,000, 30,000 shillings or 40,000 shillings for school fees per academic year. And so things are now changing, and the subsidy has been taken away, where now we're having this huge chunk of hundreds of thousands of shillings as school fees. And you, from whatever school fees your child will be pursuing that course, they can now either apply for loans, or they can apply for bursaries, or they can apply for scholarships. And then the government will cater for some amount of money within that stipulated funding model. And then you as the parent or as the guardian will cater for the rest. So why varsity funding model is likely to see thousands miss out? Those who are lucky to get scholarships and loans from the government will complete studies with a huge debt burden, because remember, the loan, which is the HELB loan, you eventually have to now start paying for it post your university studies. So universities have issued admission letters indicating the actual cost per program without government funding. An analysis of various programs in different universities indicate that some public universities are charging higher tuition fees than some private ones. The information was previously not disclosed to the public. So I'd love us to take a look at just samples of courses and how much they will cost without the government funding. Now, for your child to pursue a Bachelor of Science in Food and Nutrition and Dietetics and Environment Science at the Kenyatta University, you will part away with about 612,000 Kenyan shillings, not for the whole course, but per academic year. 612,000 Kenyan shillings per academic year. So this goes to roughly estimates of 4 academic years for a whole bachelor's degree course. So you have to take 612,000, multiply it by 4. You'll get figures amounting to about 2.5 million Kenyan shillings. And that is what your child will be catering for, or you will, as the parent or guardian, will be catering for within the whole course. Now, that is for the full amount. Assuming your child gets access to scholarships or to the loan from HELB or to bursaries, that amount will still go lower. But is it low enough for you to be able to afford it as a parent? That is the question now. Now, let's take a look at Daystar University. For a nursing degree, you will part with about 128,300 Kenyan shillings. For a diploma in communication at the Daystar University, you will part with 105,000 Kenyan shillings. At the University of Kabianga, for your child to pursue a school or a degree in School of or for your child to join the School of Education, Arts and Social Sciences at the University of Kabianga, you will part with 244,800 shillings. Now, mind you, this is one of those courses where you see a lot of children going to universities to pursue to become teachers, School of Education, because largely it is affordable, has got lower cluster points, generally anyone can be a teacher. And so for your child to join the School of Education, Arts and Sciences at the University of Kabianga, the parent will part with 244,000 Kenyan shillings. Mind you, this is for 1 academic year. So if it is for 4 academic years, take 244,000, multiply it by 4. That total amount that you get is what you'll part away within the 4-year course. School of Engineering and Technology at the Technical University of Mombasa will cost about 275,400 shillings per academic year. School of Education, Arts and Social Sciences at the Egerton University will cost 278,000 shillings per academic year. At the Karatina University, the same course will cost you 108,000 shillings. At the Masai Mara University, the same course will cost you 112,200 shillings. And for your child to pursue a bachelor's degree in law at the university or at the Daystar University, you will part with 152,000 shillings per academic year. So these are just samples of courses. Now, if your child was or did sit for the KCSE examinations last year, by now you should have at least gotten that admission letter. Within that admission letter, they have stipulated the amount the course will cost per academic year. So now it now falls back to, after you've received that particular letter, you now have to go back to the, to the education, so to the funding portal for you to now apply for the scholarship from the government or for the loans from the Higher Education Loans Board. Is it a guarantee that you'll get the scholarship? No, it is not, because there are so many factors that will now determine whether you access it or not. I'll be able to quote one of the senior officers within the education sector who in a recent TV address or TV interview stated that they will be able to look at details such as the KRA, such as the NHIF, NSSF, because within those deductions, the government is now able to know what bracket of salary are you as a parent, or what are you earning as a parent, what bracket of salary or what job group do you belong to. So, it varies. Somebody who earns 10,000 shillings, the NHIF deductions are different from someone who earns 100,000 Kenyan shillings. So the KRA is similar, the income tax, what we call pay as you earn, also varies. Somebody who earns 10,000 will pay differently from somebody who earns 50,000, from somebody who earns 100,000 Kenyan shillings. So it is not possible for you to lie within the funding portal. And that will determine whether or not your child will be able to access this scholarship or these loans from the Higher Education Loans Board. We also have the bursaries in place, the Constituency Development Fund bursaries or the national government Constituency Development Funds bursaries, what we call the CDF. So you can access those. But if you look at also the figures of just how much you're able to access for the bursaries for university education, it is capped at about 10,000 Kenyan shillings. And then for the high school education or primary education as well, it is capped at about 5,000 Kenyan shillings. So if you're paying about 132,000 Kenyan shillings per academic year, and the bursary that you receive from the government, assuming you get it twice, is 20,000 Kenyan shillings, you still have about 100,000 shillings to cater for that. Then now talk about the scholarship. If you apply through the funding portal, they have to consider the most vulnerable households or the most vulnerable people who will access that scholarship first, and then the other groups might follow. So the reality is now starting to sink in that we're looking at a situation or a scenario where university education could become quite unpopular or could become quite expensive for a lot of households whose children are set to join various campuses this September. Now, according to the Vice Chancellor of the University of Embu, he says new model is good for students and institutions. Professor Mugeni dismisses claims that universities have increased their fees. And the Public Universities Vice Chancellor's Committee Chairperson says, and I quote, "I'm surprised that we are talking about fees having been increased in universities. There are no fees that have been increased. The model proposed by the government is going to favor everyone. We have already released letters to new students joining us, but I don't think they are reading those letters because they are very clear on what they need to do. So what the letter really says, or what is clear, or what it is clear on, is that that amount stipulated is before scholarships or before funding by the government. So if you're going to receive a letter that says, you know, your student has been admitted to pursue a Bachelor's of Law from the university or from the Daystar University, and the course will amount to 152,000 shillings for the first academic year, which should have basically about 2 semesters each. That is before the funding from the from the government. So after that, now apply for the funding from the government. If you get it, then that amount will go lower by about 60 or 50% of that amount, and then whatever remains, you as the guardian will be able to cater for that. So that is the latest on the new university funding model, which of course has received a lot of uproar from parents who now believe it is becoming quite expensive to take their child to universities. So that is why you're looking at that headline on the Daily Nation, education for the rich, because at that point, your money is what will determine whether or not your child will be able to access university education. Top of the page still on the Daily Nation, Azimio ignites fresh row with claims of bias in fertilizer supply. Azimio ignites fresh row with claims of bias in fertilizer supply. National Assembly Minority Leader Opiyo Wandayi alleges a state-sanctioned scheme to deny farmers in Nyanza access to the low-cost fertilizer ahead of the short rains season. The government has further reduced the price of a 50 kg bag to 2,500 shillings from 3,500 to boost production. Also top of the page, Senator stars row with top House officials, and nominated Senator Gloria Oroba faces lengthy suspension from the Senate following serious allegations against a parliamentary official that were, however, dismissed. A story that is on page 4, and she has been suspended until February of 2024. So Oroba's allegations against senior House officials rock Senate, and a top parliamentary official has been sucked into a web of serious allegations that have, however, been dismissed by the House. And at the center of the unsubstantiated allegations is nominated Senator Gloria Oroba. The damning allegations were laid bare in a report tabled in the House by the Senate Powers and Privileges Committee yesterday. The report, whose debate was adjourned following a motion by Majority Leader Aaron Cheruiyot, had recommended the suspension of Oroba for the remainder of the second session of the 13th Parliament. This was in addition to withholding the use or enjoyment of any specified facility provided to members of Parliament for the same duration. The fate of the MP now lies in the hands of the House leadership, who requested to handle the matter in camera to avoid airing the dirty linen in public. So it is a wait-and-see situation on what the House leadership will decide concerning the embattled nominated senator. As well as more taxes, property owners in 6 counties face higher land rates. Top of the page stories on the Daily Nation. Let's switch to the Standard. The making of a rogue police boss. The making of a rogue police boss. Inspector General of Police Japheth Kome is accused of insensitivity after claiming the opposition hired corpses to make it appear police had killed protesters. However, the IG is under fire from Azimio, the bereaved civil society, and morticians. Now, earlier this week, that is a story that is on page 4. Earlier this week, the Inspector General of Police, Japheth Kome, alluded to the fact that Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition had hired dead bodies to parade themselves, because they're dead, to parade themselves as victims of police brutality. Claims that he did not substantiate with any sort of evidence because he just said it in a media address. However, in a quick rejoinder, Azimio la Umoja stated that that is absurd because some of those bodies that he says were hired or quote-unquote hired had gunshot wounds and also had death certificates. And in addition to that, the bereaved civil society as well as morticians have come out guns blazing against what the Standard is terming a rogue police boss. Now, An invite by the opposition outfit yesterday said Azimio leaders would use the event to seek the arrest of police officers involved in the killings and ask the International Criminal Court, ICC, to look into allegations of crimes against humanity. Now, Raila dismissed claims which have been condemned as insensitive in severe quarters. The IG has also faced condemnation over his remarks, with family members of the deceased seeking an apology. The Association of Morticians has called out the police chief, challenging him to present the evidence. According to the morticians, they say mortuary technicians are governed by ethics, chiefly among them being respect and confidentiality of the deceased and respect for the loss, feelings and the right of the bereaved to mourn their loved ones in peace. Now, Azimio leaders have also hit out at the IG and says, and I quote, what the Inspector General is saying is a lie. He's being economical with the truth. And Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna slammed the IG for being insensitive, saying it is already known that most people in Kenya Kwanza regime are neither competent nor suitable to hold any office, public or private. It is time for Kenyans to question their sanity. And so those are some of the reactions that are coming from various quarters, including the bereaved civil society, the morticians, as well as the opposition over the remarks made by the Inspector General of Police, Japheth Kome, that the Azimio, the opposition, hired dead bodies to act as victims of police brutality. Now, kins of police brutality also want apology. Those who, the family of those who passed away within the demonstrations period also want apology from the Inspector General of Police over those remarks. Top of the page as well, Granny's kin quizzed in puzzling death. 8 people, including three relatives of the 84-year-old found dead in her compound, were questioned by the DCI as probe continues on what police say is possible murder. A story that is on page 6. A woman that had been dead for more than 9 months, her remains found, and now the question of what happened to her continues to linger in a lot of memories, and that is a special report done by the Standard. Top of the page as well, Western still holding out for jobs promise in government. The election pledges, as a region, supporters, this is what we'll do. So those promises are still to hold out, as the Western region still holding out for jobs promise in government. The cost of living crisis escalates on dollar woes, a story that is on page 22. As well as the race for English Premier League crown begins with City in pole position. English Premier League is back this Friday and this weekend. So a lot of buzzing for that from the football fans, as well as court bursts man's hopes in condom case. And he claimed that the tools of trade tore while in the act, but judge said since he was cheating on his wife, his account couldn't be believed, thus no compensation. Interesting that, isn't it? Now to the Star, how SRC gave members of parliament bigger pay than Ruto. Lawmakers to take home approximately 1.7 million shillings and could stretch to 1.9 for some of the members. So let's take a look at just the basic package of an MP. Well, their monthly basic salary is at 725,502 shillings as stipulated on top of the Star. Now we'll take a look at the committee sitting allowance, which should total to 120,000. Then car maintenance allowance at 356,000 and millage claim at 462,000. So an MP will take home about 1.6 million shillings, which is more than what President William Ruto is taking home. And for some members, that figure could balloon to 1.9 million shillings. So SRC hands senators, MPs better package than President William Ruto. Now, if you look at the basic salary of a deputy speaker, he or she will earn 948,000 shillings, which is 200,000 shillings more than what the majority leader will earn, which is 784,000 shillings, equivalent to that of the minority leader. And then the MPs and the senators will take home 725,000 shillings as the basic pay. So now we'll start with adding the allowances, committee sitting allowances. The chairperson of a committee sitting allowance earns 15,000 shillings per sitting, up to a maximum of 240,000 shillings per month. So if this committee earns 15,000 shillings per sitting for the chair, and they have about 10 committee sittings a month, well, that is equivalent to 150,000 shillings. The vice chair of that particular committee will earn 12,000 shillings per sitting, which will be equivalent to, if they do 10 sittings a month, 120,000 shillings. And then the member of that sitting will get 7,500 shillings per sitting. 10 sittings a month, that is equivalent to 75,000 shillings. Car maintenance allowance shall be paid to a member of parliament at the rate of 356,000 shillings per month to maintain that particular car. Millage claim. An MP shall be reimbursed a claimable millage of one return journey in a week from the National Assembly, that is to Nairobi, to his or her constituency, at the rate of 152 shillings per kilometer. So if an MP comes from the likes of Bungoma, which is about, I'll estimate to 160 kilometers away, so do 160 kilometer times 152 shillings will give you the exact millage claim she'll get or he'll get. Then reimbursable monthly millage claim of up to a maximum of 462,000 shillings a month. And for a distance above 350 kilometers, MPs are paid based on actual distance times the millage rate per 152 shillings per kilometer. Now let's talk about the special parliamentary duty allowance, and this shall be paid to a maximum of 150,000 shillings per month to a state officer in the Senate or in the National Assembly whose duties involve added parliamentary leadership, e.g. member of the Speaker's panel. Now, let's add medical cover, shall we? Inpatient totaling to 10 million shillings, outpatient 300,000 Kenyan shillings, maternity 150,000 shillings, dental 100,000 shillings, and optical 100,000 shillings. So a good month, let's just put it that way, a good month where this member of parliament has attended quite a couple of sittings, has been granted this car maintenance allowance, has been granted the millage claim of that maximum PAR of 462,000 shillings, and then add the special parliamentary duty allowance. Well, this MP could take home about 1.6 million or 1.9 million shillings. So SRC hands senators, MPs better package than President William Ruto. Top of the page as well, Founding Fathers KICC statue given a makeover. What you'll see on top of the page is workers who are cleaning the Jomo Kenyatta monument at KICC ahead of the Africa Climate Conference next month. Also top of the page, 5 startups, Kenyans win 71 million shillings for ChatGPT in healthcare. And then another 47 days in remand for cult leader Paul Mackenzie. Now, Paul Mackenzie and his 27 co-accused have entered Kenya's history books for the longest pre-charge detention sanctioned by a court since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution. The controversial religious leader was first arrested in April 15th and has stayed behind bars for 117 days without being formally charged. Also, on the Siasa pullout, why Ruto's game plan puts Azimio One Kenya coalition on the edge. And those are the stories making headlines on the newspapers. So allow us to take a quick breather, but when we come back, we'll be listening into Dr. Ezekiel Mutua, the Chief Executive Officer of the Music Copyright Society of Kenya, as well as the former CEO of the Film Classification Board of Kenya. He said quite interesting issues as to what policies, as the CEO, he has put up in place to be able to cushion our musicians from brokenness, as well as what policies have been put up in place to ensure that he is cleaning the airwaves as much as possible and that this harmful content does not get to our children. So that conversation coming up after the break. Stay with us.
and the buzz. Find the voice you can trust, a voice of reason, a voice of direction, and a voice of hope.
Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Live. I'm Cynthia Nanjala.
And I'm Samia Dika. Rise and shine, folks. We hope you are ready for an energizing start to your day.
Absolutely. We are here to bring you the latest headlines and trending news stories from the world of politics,
business and finance, health and lifestyle,
agriculture and sports.
So grab your coffee, sit back and get ready for a fantastic morning of engaging discussions and news segments.
Join us through our social media handles, #The Morning Live. This is Morning Live, exclusively on EBN TV.
With great love and joy, I especially welcome you to worship with us at Redeemed Gospel Church Buruburu. This is a true family church, a true spiritual home. Redeemed Gospel Church Buruburu is home to exuberant prayers, deep and true worship. A house of prayer that will leave you feeling refreshed. Our first service starts at 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. and our second service starts at 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. On Wednesdays, we have our midweek service from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and every Friday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. we have our night of glory. This is the church you have been looking for. This is the place for your spiritual growth and maturity. See you this Sunday and karibu sana.
From Nairobi, Kenya, this is EBN TV.
Watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
So welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Morning Live. So it is about time that we get into, or to get to listen into a conversation that we had with Dr. Ezekiel Mutua, who is the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the Music Copyright Society of Kenya. You've popularly known him as the Moral Cop during his time as well at the at the Film Classification Board of Kenya, what we call FCBK. Well, he mentioned quite a lot of things from, content cleaning to earnings, how he will increase earnings of musicians, as well as to just how do we ensure that Kenyan music is also played beyond our borders. We hear a lot of Niger music in Kenya or South African music, but what about our Kenyan music? How do we ensure that it's also played in Tanzania or Nigeria or South Africa? Well, that conversation begins right now.
God that we have come this far within a very short span of time, because when I joined MCSK, around April last year, it was a crisis. And there were so many things that were not in place. We didn't have a license. The society not had a license for 7 years. There were no tariffs. The ones that were gazetted in 2019 lowered the value of music by 90%. When the commodity of everything else in the world was going up. Then COVID came and disrupted the entire operations of music and the creative economy. So when I joined, the campaigns were ongoing. And there was very little I could do in terms of getting the government to create the right policies and the legislative framework for me to work on so that I can improve and streamline the ecosystem of music. So it took me a while because the campaigns were ongoing until August. Then after that, it took quite a while because of the Supreme Court petition. And then by the time the ministers were appointed and settled in office, it was already in October. But I thank God because when the CS Ababna Mwamba was appointed, our CS, when the handing over was taking place, I was the first guest in his office. As the old minister was leaving and the new one coming in, I was there. And so I pushed the conversation about music to the policy makers, to the government, and to the level of the cabinet secretary to ensure that he understands. And I went with the documents, I provided all the information, and we started the conversations there. Obviously, it has taken some time, but I can report right now that all the CMOs have been licensed until 2024. New tariffs were gazetted about a month ago by the CS that have lifted the value of music from where it was by 60%. We are now having one revenue stream, one major one called blank tape levy or private copying. That has been law for 5 years but not operationalized. And as of yesterday, as late of yesterday, we were given the HR codes by KRA that will synchronize because this levy is going to be the game changer because it's a lot of money. It is money, it's a tax levied on any gadget that has capacity to record music at the port of entry. So if a container comes with 2 million gadgets, zinahesabiwa, unapewa, unalipa because it's in the law. And it was not operationalized. Now people were blaming CMOs for the poverty afflicting musicians. And yet these CMOs were only collecting from clubs and salons and probably media houses, that broadcasting stations that are even struggling. And there was no major revenue stream. Now what I've done is to utilize the major revenue streams like YouTube and Google and TikTok, and now getting the private copying or blank tape levy operationalized. We are hoping to roll out by 12th of September. We are estimating that in the minimum, we'll be able to raise 6 billion per year. So when you look at the three CMOs, MCSK, CAMP and PRISC, jointly, I mean collecting about 200 million per year. If I'm estimating from one revenue stream to raise 6 billion, you can see this is a game changer. Yes. And everything is in place. Yesterday we got the HR codes from KRI. The engine has been identified by the government. The revenue share between the three CMOs has been worked out and then gazetted. We have new tariffs, we have licenses, and the entire ecosystem right now is working seamlessly. But what I think my achievement has been and will be is creating awareness about the business of music. Making people understand that music is not a side hustle. It is business. Creative and be decent people out of their music. That music does not have to be dirty to sell. That we can create this as business, create a structure and a code of ethics that guides the operations of music, but create that ecosystem between the government, the creatives themselves, the CMOs, and the consumers of music so that we work together because no one can succeed alone. That awareness, that legal framework is what I consider to be the turning point for the music industry in Kenya. So I can say, as I promised when I joined, that by this time next year, we'll probably be having musicians laughing or, smiling all the way to the bank because unlike in the past where they were getting very little money because we were collecting very little, and there cannot be major distribution without major collection, now this time round, we are making the business of music profitable. And I've done this by creating awareness on how it works, that music is business. So what are the ethos and pathos that define a business? You got to do it as a business. You have to know your market, your audience, and your target market. And you have to align your music as a product to that. Government has to do its role to protect copyright and fight piracy and ensure that intellectual property is respected in line with Section 40 of our Constitution that says that the government or the state has an obligation to protect the intellectual property of its citizens. Getting those offices to open and having that conversation is a big milestone for me. You know, because I've gone to school and I've also been in this industry for long, I know it. Because I believe there are 3 E's that contribute to greatness: education, experience, and exposure. And I have them. So I speak from authority. I can engage these youths. You know, I was engaging with the other day with a lady called Saru, who was sang the song, Niko na pesa na niya babako kasikia vibaya na uko kwenu. And I was like, good. Now we can talk. You are talented, but you don't sing that way. And I want you to know that the people are pushing the clickbaits and the views and shares on social media do not have the money. I'm the one with the money. Yeah. And then when we create the culture, because music is powerful, unless you don't know what your talent is all about and the power in your talent, then there's a sense in which you must sell your music to the widest audience that you can get. So you don't just sell it to the Islando guys or to the, perverts or to the guys who are rebellious, who will just cheer you up and they're not buying the music. So I am not afraid to create the conversation, even if they will troll me on social media. I asked her the question, because this is a boy who was dating, the girl was dating a boy, they broke up, she started dating the father. And so she tells the boy, niko na pesa na niya babako kasikia vibaya na huko kwenu. Do you really want to glamorize that? Is it a nice thing? We are going to have conversations. So we'll not use a big rungu. We're not going to use a big stick to clamp down on freedom of expression on the musicians. We are going to have a conversation. And we will not be afraid to have those hard conversations. Do you think that is the right thing? Is it the right thing? Is that content selling? Is it giving you money? Is it giving you the purpose for which God gave you that talent? It's God-given first and foremost. You are talented this way, came from God. I identified you. So you are a vehicle for social cultural transformation. Do you want to do it that way? Is your talent to destroy or to build society? Is it to bring development or to bring challenges to regulators and to the government? Do you want to push the narrative of rebellion and lawlessness and the culture of anything goes, where we can say anything to anybody, where we don't respect authority, God, parents, government? Do you think we have a better society that way? And you just oppose that with what is happening. For example, in Uasin Gishu, where now kids are saying we want accountability from our... But if you are going to push that culture, that's what you get. If we are going to elect leaders on the basis of who can insult the president more, if you're going to buy music on the basis of how vulgar it is, how profane it is, that's what you get. So I wanted these young people to see, and I want them to understand that I'm their champion. I am their friend. And therefore the conversation we are going to have is not us versus them. It's about how do we make music business profitable. So is vulgarity the only thing that sells? Is nudity the only thing that sells? And I want at the end of the day, music to be relevant to our generation, to our society, and I want our people to be able to know that government will respect you, parents will respect you, the society will respect you when you are using your talent to contribute positively to the growth and development of society. So that conversation is what will create money. That conversation is what will get the government to create the right laws to open up the space and make music profitable. We are signing bilateral agreements. They are called reciprocal agreements with other jurisdictions to ensure that music played in those countries, Kenyan music played in those countries, also is paid for. So particularly on the digital platform. So last month I was in South Africa. We signed with the African Digital Hub, Capasso, to be able to collect the repertoire of music on YouTube for Kenyans, collect on our behalf. And we raised the percentage from what we had signed with the YouTube about 5 years ago at 1.7%. Now we raised it to 16.5%. That's how you look at the business. I went and negotiated and signed a new deal with the Capasso to collect for us on YouTube at 16.5%. That would be huge because we're getting about 4 million per quarter. So even on that basic platform, you can see it will not be less than 20 million. So if you are raising from 4 million to 20, how do you score me as a CEO, all right? And this is money that will go to the musicians because it comes with the identification. Whose logs are this? Whose music, whose works are this? And therefore, the money comes directly. It has your name, and so it will go to you because we are streamlining that area. But I have an itinerary that is taking me to Turkey, to Switzerland, to US, to UK, where we are signing. Some of them had been signed, but they lapsed, some of these reciprocal agreements, so we were not getting anything. Now we are reviving them. And because we are creating a conversation, because the conversation must begin at home. Because some of those countries say, if you want us to pay, we must align our payments to your local tariffs. If the government had lowered the value of music in Kenya by 90%, there's nothing that they could pay. Number two, we are promoting the issue of local content here, so that even broadcasting stations, including EBN, will play more local. It's good to play Nigerian music. It's good to play music from other jurisdictions, but eventually we have a policy in line with the law that promotes local content, so that our young people who are so creative will find a place to articulate or to express themselves through these platforms. But let me say, like I said at the beginning, the CMOs have been collecting from traditional market streams, revenue streams, restaurants, kinyozi. You cannot enrich musicians na pesa ya kinyozi, bwana. No. And you know, it was such a contradiction in terms when I met the minister, when he heard that there is something called blank tape levy that has been in the law for 5 years with the capacity to raise 6 billion. And yet we are chasing watu wa kinyozi in Buruburu, harassing them to pay music licenses when this has been in the law and is the major stream. So we end up collecting money where we send them 600 and people complain, oh, the CMOs don't pay. Yet the government is sitting on a law that is worth 6 billion. Now, yesterday we got the HR accords from KRA. We have synchronized and we're hoping to roll by 12th of December. See, this is what leadership does. And my challenge has been to musicians, because if you take music as business, then no business, no profession is respected until it comes up with its own structures, a code of ethics. So you want this to be considered as business or a profession, like law, like engineering, like accountant, like journalism. You got to have a code of ethics, because there is no way the industry and the ecosystem will respect you when you do not respect yourself. So when I have that conversation, for example, with Saru, it's not out of hatred or religious dogma. It is because there is no other way we are going to be respected. We cannot have anybody rising from anywhere, singing whatever they want. Wamlambes, and like a national anthem. You can't do that. We are saying, if you want this to be treated as business, then you are going to have the laws governing it and say this material is for this market. What is for adults is going to be adult, and we got to know from the time you are creating. And then we synchronize the ecosystem from the creators of music so that they create quality music that can be consumed locally and internationally. And then the government to do its part to fight piracy, create the revenue stream, monetize content on digital platforms, and help our youth to know how to do it and create awareness. That's why Talanda Hela by Honorable Babu Namwamba is such a game changer. The other thing that I did when I went to South Africa, I met the major music record companies. Sony, the other one is what? Universal, and there was one more, the three of them, the big companies in the world. And we're in a conversation, but this is what they told me. Unlike even your neighbors in Tanzania, there seems to be nothing unique about Kenyan music. You have no unique culture for your music or for your creative arts. We cannot identify Kenyan music. If you put it in the chart and try what is so unique about Kenya, you can't. So I'm trying to create a repertoire that is unique to Kenya, and getting our artists to understand that we have a culture that we can sell out there. We are blessed, we are creative, we are educated. Our young people are so robustly involved in ICT, but that is not translating to money. Some of them were just posting big cars and big houses. They don't own those houses, then they don't own those cars. One of them posted that they were in London, then they got an accident outside my gate, and then to rescue them. So I was like, but I saw you in London. What happened? So you can see. So people are into social media doing funny things, fake things that are not helping. I want us now to take this as business. Sit down and create a Kenyan music culture. Our repertoire that is unique. Ukisikia hii muziki, unajua hii ni Kenya. The way you know Nigeria, you will know when it plays. You'll know South Africa when it plays. We have no unique culture. Diamond is defining the culture of Tanzanian music and is making a lot of money. Our guys are more tech savvy than even Diamond Platinum. Why are we not having as much traction on YouTube? Why are we not selling our music, our content on digital platforms? Because we don't even resonate with our own government and the local market. We got to work on it here and create understanding and ensure that our laws define our culture and our music is protected from piracy, and that uniqueness is supported by the government and the entire ecosystem. And I believe I have a brand that I bring to the industry that is acceptable, that is tested and tried, that I can match with the rest of the CEOs and the corporate leaders, and they can listen to me, from the churches to the marketplace to the politics, that we can resonate. It's the first time, I would say, with tremendous humility, where a CEO of my caliber would be in a music, business. So the story is changing, because before they would pick anybody. You would see the advert, even the threshold, you want even to remove a degree. So you end up attracting just diploma and lower, and you want that CEO to be the same as the CEO in Royal Media Services or the one in KCB and so on. The best thing we can do is to professionalize the business of music, give it leadership that is exposed, the 3 E's, education, experience, exposure, and then create a network where instead of selling our music to just Kenya, we sell it to the global market, because the world is a global village. Push it on the digital platforms and monetize and ensure that we protect our music when it's put there. I was very sad when I joined last year when I met this guy who did Kwangwaru. And Kwangwaru was doing, not Kwangwaru, it was Kungulu Kwangala. Kwangwaru is the English for Diamond. Kungulu Kwangala is a local guy, he's a Kamba. And he told me he has never gained anything. And there TikTok was doing challenges. There were about 100 of them on TikTok for Kungulu Kwangala, and the guy had not gained anything. So I was saying, where is the government in this? Because we should make this guy rich, because he has content that is trading globally, but he's not making money. Now you needed leadership, and everything changes, everything rises or falls at the level of leadership. And I believe by God's grace, that's what I'm bringing. Transformation that is real, that will impact the pockets of our musicians, that will make musicians respected, and they will enjoy. I'm having this conversation even with the church, you can't believe it. I'm saying worship leaders and the worship teams, as we go on, we must have a way that they have a budget where we say, let's make our worship the finest we can have. To do that, they need to spare time to practice. Some of them are actually just called for that. The worship leaders cannot be also working for other places. With time, we need to refine this, because once we make that music nice and we record and we put it on YouTube, it's paying. So they're making money from there. The reason why the churches cannot pay is because we are relying on the offering to pay, and you can't pay the pastor, pay all the other workers and pay. So we have treated the worship element as a pro bono. So how is that going to be respected? I want my child, and a young child somewhere, to be inspired to become a musician, because Cynthia, who is a musician, is living well. You are feeding your family, you are putting food on the table, you are paying school fees using your talent. The moment your talent cannot get there, then we are not building more talents, because what is the inspiration? If these guys are struggling, they are into depression, they are living fake lives, because there is no real money, because the government has not invested in creating the structures that would protect the intellectual property. That's what I'm bringing to the table. And I think it's working.
Well, indeed, an earlier conversation with the Chief Executive Officer of the Music Copyright Society of Kenya, Dr. Ezekiel Mutua. On 1 year, 4 months later, how has his role very much in the music industry changed? The spaces changed, the conversations. He's talked about so many things. Cleaning the airwaves, that is one of the campaign platform that he really runs on, cleaning the airwaves, and says we need to have conversations on how good music and non-harmful content type of music gets to the people, as well as what policies he's put up in place to ensure that musicians earn from their music Remember the COVID-19 crisis and just how much musicians were being paid at that point. Big musicians that we know, 2,500 bob, to just pull them through or push them within those 8-9 months that COVID was quite intense in 2020. Well, he says he's changing the conversations and has put up quite a lot of policies to ensure that musicians get value for their work. And then, of course, the issue to do with Kenyan music, the identity of Kenyan music. Can we compare it to Niger music, to bongo music of Tanzania, or to the music that South Africa plays? So how do we ensure that we're having a Kenyan identity that will be recognized from anywhere across the world? Well, if you missed that interview, not to worry, you'll get it through our YouTube channel, or you can, send us your SMS, your feedback through SMS line 23993. So that is where I want to wrap up Morning Live this morning. Thank you for your company. I'm Cynthia Nanjala. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a blessed weekend.